Buddy, some very interesting stuff happening in the silver market. I want to go over some of the details on what I'm looking for. I've been talking about a detachment from the stock market for a while now, and we saw some signs of that in the last couple days here, which is very interesting. I have some charts over on the other screen here that I'll pull up in this video, and we'll go over some of the details on kind of the technicals of why I think kind of a bottom is looking in play for silver right now. It's what is captivating to me is the more research I put into this, studying the silver market, constantly looking at the numbers every single day, the recent announcements from the Fed, and just how far and like tightly bound the Fed has cornered itself. It's astonishing that the market has gotten to this place. It's just a very odd. Everything, what's up is down, down is up, and so it's just very odd to me, the whole overall sentiment of the Fed. I've kind of revealed some very interesting information on what happened from 1979 to 1983. Now, that's a very key portion in our history with economics in the U.S. from 1979 to 1983, because that was when the highest inflation occurred. If this video provides you some value, I would really appreciate it if you smash the like button, because it helps the videos get out there to more people. I'm trying to reach a larger audience, and we're almost over 25K on the subscribers. So if you could subscribe to the account, there's a little subscribe button. I would really appreciate it if you click the subscribe, because I spend a lot of time researching, and you will see from all the stuff I have pulled up here and all the numbers and the years and everything that I've spent a lot of time researching this. So if you could do that for me, I have nothing to sell you, but if you could click the subscribe, really would mean a lot. If you click the like button, got my fancy pillow down here to remind me. If you could hit that like button, would really appreciate it. If you agree or disagree, make sure you get your voice heard, because I got the comment section over here as well, and I'm looking at all the comments. Sometimes I get a little distracted in these videos, but I'm watching the comments, and we will always get to the comment sections at the ends of these live feeds. I like to stay on point in the beginning so that when I post this video, if you want to watch all the way through the comments in the end, but I will get to everybody's comments and all the super chats and stuff like that at the end of the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is the market. So let me pull up the my screen over here. So first I was looking at the gold to silver ratio, which is right over here. The gold to silver ratio is actually still very high. I wanted to make a note, though, for what I'm going to talk about in this video over here. When I'm talking about 1979 to 1983, this is when inflation hit the highest levels it ever hit. I believe it was June of, I forget, the exact date was March, I believe, in March of 1980. It peaked at just over 14%, like 14.9% in March of 1980. And so literally right when inflation peaked, we saw, and inflation was just coiling up here in 1979, we saw a silver to gold ratio of 15 to 1. 15 to 1. If you're talking 15 to 1, that means it took 15 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of gold. To put it into perspective, right now the ratio is still up at nearly 80. So the last time inflation, Peter Schiff has said this quite a few times, I've said this quite a few times, I think that if they actually used the real data, the CPI data that they were using back in the 80s, back in 1979, 1980, when we had peak inflation, it would show, if they didn't change up the places of the CPI data, it would actually show, if they use the same data that they used in 1979, 1980, that inflation is in fact higher now than it was back then. The real numbers, if they actually use the real CPI that they used back in 1979, the real data would show that right now we're probably well over 15%, maybe even heading up over to 20%. So this is actually really good data to look at, because it was the last time we had inflation like we're seeing today. And it's laughable because it was nowhere near as bad as it is today. They didn't get to run a printing press $13 trillion over the last 2 years. In 1978 and 1979, they didn't run a printing press $13 trillion. No, it was just a terrible time of stagflation back then due to oil and all the different things going on in the time. But today it's way worse. But we're told inflation is only 7%. Really, if the true numbers were out there, would show it's much higher than that. But the first thing I wanted to show is the silver to gold ratio, just so you guys see that I'm actually looking up the real data points here. But then also, so that's the first thing I want to talk about in more of a macro scheme. Now, the next thing is the recent detachment. And I've talked about this a lot in the channel, that I'm looking for a detachment from the stock market. I'm looking for, and I have a point to make on this with real estate as well, and why it's going to start funneling money into safe haven assets like silver, gold, platinum, palladium, Bitcoin, all these things. It's going to go into safe haven assets. And I think it's going to go not into real estate, but I think it's going to go into safe haven assets for a reason that I'm going to bring up in this video as well. But in the short-term technical view, this is a very interesting telltale sign for me from the precious metals market and being in the industry, and I look for this all the time. The stock market pulled back pretty heavy. We're looking right now at the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ went from 16,000 down to almost 15,000 in the last couple days here, a few days. So really broad. I mean, just today we're down 400 just on the daily, over 2.5% down on the NASDAQ, which is more the tech type stuff, which is interesting. The tech pulling back that hard, and the S&P as well, down as well. Same thing with the Dow. Now, what's interesting about this, and it tells me kind of a bottom is in play for silver. Not only do I think a bottom is in play, but also I think that it's so coiled up based on how low, artificially low it is, and everything going on. It's just wild to me that it's bottoming and it's coiled at the same time, because I was going to talk about the dollar index as well being kind of loftily high still. If the dollar index crashes, anyway, I'll get to that in the next point. So the stock market goes down, and then in this same period, this is the same chart, a 5-day chart. This is the 5-day chart for the NASDAQ, 5-day chart for the S&P. Now we see silver's 5-day chart, and we see just a sudden skyrocket on the same day that the stock market pulls down. Now, we had been seeing kind of a parallel, and I've talked about this in the past on the channel, that once I see a detachment, which is what we should see on paper, we should see this. If the stock market goes down, safe haven assets should go up, especially something as undervalued as silver. But now we're actually seeing that. Before, we would see the stock market goes down, silver goes down. Stock market goes up, silver goes up. We were seeing it kind of in parallel, and we're also seeing that with Bitcoin, kind of this parallel between equities and Bitcoin, equities and silver and gold, kind of moving at the same levels. But to see a detachment, silver up, stock market down, that's a very telling sign to me. Again, if you find some value from my videos, I have nothing to sell you in here. I just want to grow my channel and make good content for you. So if you hit the like button, click the subscribe, really does mean a lot, really does help my channel. Seriously, really appreciate everybody hitting that like button and stuff so this video gets out there to more people. And if you're in the silver market, we want to get this information out to more people. But the crazy part is that the dollar index is still very lofty. The dollar index is still sitting up there because it's the cleanest shirt in the dirty hamper, as everybody likes to say. But at the end of the day, it's fake money back to nothing. It's still just as fake as all the other currencies out there. So what I argue is I think the entire basket of fiat currencies is going to go down. So if the dollar is the best of the worst, I think they're all going to go down, with the dollar still just staying steadily ahead of it. If the dollar plummets, we'll see everything else plummet as well with it, with the dollar maybe slightly ahead of it. But nobody talks about, everyone thinks that the money's just going to go straight into the dollar. I think the whole basket falls down, with the dollar still staying higher than the rest of them, but the whole basket of fiat fake money falling down at the same time. And what's crazy is the dollar index is still really high. Now, if the dollar index is still up over 95, nearly 96 right now, what's interesting is if that dollar crashes, which I think will happen in the near future, based on the stagflation, based on them raising rates, all the things that could happen here in the future. If the dollar crashes, that means it will take more dollars to buy silver. And that's another interesting point about silver going up right now. Even though the dollar is going up, silver is costing more. If the dollar is up, it should mean that you can use less dollars to buy silver because the dollar is up. But if the dollar is down, it means it takes more dollars to buy that ounce of silver. So as soon as that dollar index starts going down, silver would skyrocket. All safe haven assets would skyrocket because it takes more dollars to buy that asset. However, we're seeing silver go up while the dollar index is going up, which is very interesting to me. Those are some of the main points I want to bring up. But let me go back to something that'll blow your mind on silver really quick. This is a really interesting situation here. So let me pull back this chart. And let's bring it all the way back to, or let me put the all-time, if it'll let me. All right, so this is the all-time silver chart. Now, this will blow your mind. Again, let me go back to inflation here. I haven't showed this chart yet, but here's historical inflation levels, right? So historical inflation levels, you see 1978, 9.2%. This is the annual, by the way. Hang on. Sorry about that. My phone was going off. But in 1979, we're seeing the annual was at 13%, 13.29%. This is the annual rate. They get to eschew the data right there, but the actual all-time high was, I believe, 14.9% in March of 1980. So 14.9% in March of 1980. Now, what's interesting is you look at 1979, 1980, this is the peak inflation, the highest inflation we've ever seen on record. Now, if we use the same CPI data that we did back then, in this time, we'd see that inflation is way up here. We'd say it would show more than double if it was using the same type of CPI that we were using back in 1979. So really, inflation is probably, just my personal opinion, just a YouTuber, not financial advice, I think it's higher. Let me go back here to the silver chart, and here's something that's crazy. The highest inflation rate, again, was in 1980. This is 1980. Silver's price in 1980, when this news, you got to remember, this is when the printing presses were out there running hot saying inflation at all-time highs in 1980. At that time, silver was $48. And this is back in 1980. That is a very interesting indicator there. And this is before getting $30 trillion on our deficit. This is before the printing press ran $13 trillion in the last year and a half, 2 years. Back in 1980, silver's price was at 48, just under $50 an ounce, and this is at peak inflation. That's such an interesting point to make about this. At peak inflation in 1980, silver was at that big of a high, and this is back when it was a totally different world. So much fake printed money has been printed, and this is back in 1980. Remember, the gold to silver money being back to gold and silver, the gold standard dropped in 71. So 9 years later, we had silver. This is like, it just blows my mind to realize that silver is less than half of the all-time high that it hit in the 80s. That's how artificially suppressed silver has been. And to see it this tightly coiled up and seeing inflation going right back towards peak levels. Again, inflation here was at 14.9%. 14.9%. Now, what's interesting, go over to this chart. So here's inflation here. Or no, this isn't inflation. This is actually what they did with the rate hikes. So what they did in 1979, and this is actually one of the points I want to bring up with silver. So in 1980 and 1979, this is the Fed rate hikes. So when they're saying they're raising interest rates to a measly 0.9%, it's pretty laughable, because the only way they got themselves out of inflation last time was because Paul Volcker came in and raised the rates up to 20%. So back when Paul Volcker took control of the Fed, he basically raised the rates. So that just goes to show you how much they actually need to raise the rates of the Fed and just how much they're basically lying right now. Just my opinion, not financial advice. Totally my opinion, disclaimer. But what's crazy is peak rate hike from the Fed was over 20% in the 80s. And this is by Paul Volcker. And they think that they can stop inflation by raising it a measly 0.9%. That's what they think, that they could actually stop inflation. If inflation is up at the same levels that it was at in the 1980s, they had to raise rates to 20% to stop it. Yeah, and here's the telling part. Now, here's what's crazy. You had to raise it to 20% back then, right? Now, what people don't talk about is the prime rates. So prime rates, so when they raise interest rates at the Fed, and they had to raise it again to over 20% to stop it last time in the 80s. When they do that, it raises the rates for real estate. So what people aren't talking about right now is if they raise the rates at the same type of way that they did in the 80s, which is the only way they could stop it last time, obviously a measly 0.9% isn't going to stop it if it's at the same levels as it was in the 80s. When to stop it back then, when it was at a similar level, they had to raise it to over 20%. Now, here's what that did also, though. To get a loan on a house, it had to be over 20%. The prime rate was more expensive. So what would that do to the real estate market? Well, what we saw is the real estate market plummeted because of them raising the rates that high in the 80s. So what would that tell you here? What I think is what it's going to do is if they raise rates, we might see the stock market collapse. And because we're seeing a detachment right now, if the stock market collapses, it's going to go to a safe haven asset. Now, one of the first safe haven assets that people want to go throw their artificial money at is real estate. They think about real estate. What would happen if rates had to skyrocket again to 20% and the real estate rates actually were very expensive to get a loan? What would happen if loans on real estate was extremely hard to get and they were over 20% like they were back in the 80s? Real estate prices would go back to realistic levels because it's been artificially inflated due to how much money they've pumped into real estate and how easy they've made it to get a loan. But people tend to forget the more that they raise the rates at the Fed, it's going to raise the rates for the banks to give loans out to people. So it's going to get harder to get a loan and it's going to be way more expensive to get a loan from the bank. So that means real estate goes out of the equation. And that means also a lot of money from real estate is going to be looking for a safe haven asset. So what does that tell me? I think the safe haven assets that you can actually, where you can store your money, where you can store your wealth like this, it's going to flood from places like the equities market, from real estate into silver, into platinum, into gold, into Bitcoin. It's going to go all into the safe haven assets because there's nowhere else to put it. What are you going to do? Throw it in bonds? The only thing that's performing like bonds, it's like that's the worst place to put your money. That used to be one of the places to save your money. Now the bond market is crashing. So it's like, where is this money going to flood? Well, it could flood to real estate, but oh wait, nobody seems to talk about if they have to raise the rates to a similar level that they did in the 80s. If they do that, nobody's going to want real estate because it's going to be so hard to get a loan and it's going to be so expensive. If interest rates go from 3% right now, actually on the screen over here, I could pull that up and actually show you the real data. So if we go to the 30-year, this is a 30-year mortgage rate. Look what they had to do in the 80s. When they raised rates in the 80s, this was to get a loan on a house for a 30-year loan. It was up over 18%. Yeah. And now it's 3%. Obviously, people are getting loans and they're going and buying real estate and using that leverage right now. But what happens if that changes? What happens if they make money harder to get and they raise rates like they say they're going to do? Really, what it shows me is that the Fed is bluffing. The Fed has to be bluffing. There is no way for them to raise rates. If they raise rates, they're going to cause another economic collapse, just like they did in the 80s. But that's what they have to do. So if they do the right thing, the stock market plummets, real estate plummets, rates go up, and if rates go up back to they did in the 80s, and that's what's so crazy about, again, what I pulled up over here, when I pulled up the silver chart here, this is back at the same time in the 80s. So in the 80s, when we saw peak inflation, when we saw them raising all the rates on real estate, people ran to silver fast. Pretty crazy to see that. And even after the pullback, it pulled back up. And this is what's crazy to me is this is the levels back in the 80s. Like how much money printing has happened since the 80s to where we are at today is just astronomical. For silver to be less than half the peak price in the 80s when inflation was at a similar level is such a telltale sign for me to be bullish on silver still. It's wild to me. It's just crazy. Absolutely crazy that this is where we are at today. And those are all the signs that I was looking at. And I've been talking about it on the channel for a while now that I'm looking for a detachment. And this also goes for Bitcoin. I'm looking for a detachment. Now, Bitcoin hasn't shown that, it's from the beginning of everything in March of 2020, it was like 5,000-6,000 a Bitcoin. So it has some room to play around with. But I want to see a detachment from Bitcoin too. So right now we just saw a detachment with silver. Silver goes up, stock market's down, silver's up. If we see a similar detachment with Bitcoin, that'll be a bullish indicator for Bitcoin too. I'm looking for that detachment. And also I'm looking at the dollar index to start falling down as well. Right now it actually makes me more bullish that the dollar index is staying lofty while silver's going back up. That's crazy because when the dollar index finally does show that it's bluffing and it starts plummeting, silver's going to skyrocket. And silver's got a lot of room to run. The other thing that's interesting about silver is we're talking about a market cap just barely over 1 trillion. If we saw Bitcoin go from 68K was, I believe it's at high, 68, 69, fell down from there to where it is now, it went from like 1 point some odd trillion back to well under a trillion. So we're having like $100 billion, multi-$100 billion fluctuations like really fast within weeks on Bitcoin to move hundreds of billions of dollars. What that proves to me is money can move around quick when you're talking about a market cap around $1 trillion. Gold's got a market cap of around 12 trillion, 10 to 12 trillion, right? We really don't know the exact market cap, but somewhere in that range is what we're told. It's a lot harder to move that needle than it is to move the needle that has a gold to silver ratio that's way out of whack. It's still at 80 on the gold to silver ratio, between 75 and 80 on the gold to silver ratio. We could see silver easily double, easily. So first, it's a low market cap in comparison to gold, so the needle is much easier to move. And also, it's an industrial precious metal where more than 50% of it is being eaten up by industry year over year. So it's crazy to me that this is so artificially held down. And just these last few days, I wanted to make this video and go live really quick because these last few days are a telltale indicator for me to see the stock market go down and silver start detaching. Just a totally wild situation. But I also wanted to bring up what I've been studying from 1979 to 1983. That's a very interesting time in the history of the United States because the way that they combated inflation was by raising rates to over 20%. That's what they forget. That's what they're not talking about, the Fed. This is what Powell doesn't want to admit. If Powell really told the truth, he would say, look, the only way we can stop inflation, like we did when it was at a peak inflation in 1980. Remember, inflation was up almost 15% in 1980 on the real CPI data. Now, if they use that CPI today, it'd show much higher than 7%, probably at all-time highs. But back then, what they had to do is go, look, we're going to have to raise rates to 20%. They had to raise rates 5% higher than the CPI data at the Fed. To put that into perspective, the Fed's done nothing. They said they're going to raise it to a measly 0.9% in 2022 after printing $13 trillion. They're going to raise it to a measly 0.9%, and we're already seeing the market pulling back in the stock market. They haven't even done it yet. It's just been all talk. This has just been talk. It's still at 0%. They're still giving away money for free to the banks. They still are pumping money with QE. If anything, they've slowed down a tiny bit with QE, but that doesn't change that rates are still at 0%. Again, back when inflation was at a similar level in the 80s, we're talking they raised it to 20%, 5% higher than CPI. Even if the CPI data that we're being told today is true, even what we're being told at 7% is true, that would mean they would have to raise it 5% higher like they did in 1980. So they would have to raise rates to well over 12%, not a measly 0.9% by 2023. They would have to raise it to 15% to stop just where we're at today if we trust what their data is correct. Now, if it's more than double that and they're not using the correct numbers on a CPI, that would mean they would have to raise rates again back up to 20% like they did in the 80s. And that was the only way that they stopped that. Now, if they do that, real estate plummets because it's much harder to get a loan in real estate and much more expensive. On top of that, then you see the banks not wanting to give the loans out. So it's way harder for loans for anything. Then on top of that, we see the stock market collapse because people want to get out of equities and get into safe haven assets. Just wild to me that we're this tightly coiled up and the Fed is this backed into a corner where they're basically just outright lying. Just outright lying. And it's like, it reminds me of the, it's the Gulag Archipelago quote where it's, we know they are lying. They know that we know they are lying. We know that they know that we know they are lying, and still they continue to lie. It's pretty much something along those lines. And it's just wild to me to know the actual data. They think that we're not actually going to look up this data. Well, it turns out this crazy squirrel on YouTube that's a college dropout went and looked up the data from when inflation was at a similar level in 1980. Turns out they're full of it. So that's pretty much the information that I had dug up for this video, and what I've been studying is the history, because history repeats. History doesn't tell lies. History repeats itself because it shows what actually happens in these scenarios. Last time we were in this scenario, Paul Volcker got us out by raising rates to 20%. Not a measly 0.9%, 20%. What will happen if they actually do raise rates? To see us already pulling back, and oh yeah, by the way, let's just show you how much room the tech index here. We'll go to the NASDAQ. Let's show you how much room it has to fall. Yeah, that's the all-time chart on the NASDAQ. It doesn't have any room to fall, right? You know, it doesn't look that candle is normal. That's a normal candle right there, and it doesn't have that much room to fall, right? Wrong. Price earnings ratios are pretty much non-existent in today's day and age, and basically the Fed is going to get called bluffing. If the Fed gets called on their bluff, we'll see what they really do, and what they'll really have to do is we'll see a market start crashing when they say that they're going to raise rates. When they do their first raise hike, watch the market pull back huge on a measly 0.25%. They had to raise it to 20% to stop it in the 80s, and they're talking about raising it to 0.25% 4 separate times to get to a measly 0.9%. So they're raising it, 0.23% or something like that. They have to raise it to 20%. But if we're seeing the market already pulling back off of this little bit of data, that is crazy. You have that lofty of an index there, and we're basically like, let's pull up the 5-year. This is the 5-year chart on the NASDAQ. If they raise rates, we're going to see the NASDAQ just plummet down. But what's crazy is we're seeing a detachment from silver just at the start of this plummeting. So if it really starts plummeting and the dollar tanks with it and silver detaches, silver could get to hundreds of dollars an ounce. Hundreds of dollars an ounce. And oh yeah, by the way, the industries will still need it. They're still going to need it for their solar panels. They're still going to need it for the medical field. They're still going to need it for everything that they're doing with electronics, with silver. They're still going to need it. It's just wild to me. Totally wild to me. And this exact scenario actually is a very good thing for all safe haven assets, for platinum, palladium, Bitcoin, gold. It's going to be good for all safe haven assets where you can actually store your money outside of this corrupt system. That's what I personally believe. And what's crazy is that people think that this is just this is nothing in the stock market. Oh, this is just the beginning. This is nothing compared to what can happen in the stock market. The stock market could have $2,000, $3,000 days down, $5,000 days down, and people just wouldn't even see it coming. I kind of see it coming. Peter Schiff sees it coming. A lot of people that are kind of ringing the bell see it coming, but we're being, in my personal opinion, I think we're being fed lies, because to actually stop it, they would have to raise rates to 20%. Oh yeah, by the way, the prime rates, which is what the rates are for the actual customer of the bank. So if you go to the bank to get a loan from the bank, back in 1980, it was 21.5%, because it obviously had to be higher than what the bank got the loan from the Fed. So whenever they raise the rates for real estate go up. That's why a lot of people are going real quick right now and getting this easy money and getting into real estate. But what's going to be crazy is that's all those fixed loans now, they got lucky. But to get into real estate in the future for the average working class, it's going to be near impossible. We're going to have rates at 20% if they actually want to stop inflation. But what I think happens is they say they're going to raise rates, they do raise rates, and then we see the market collapse. We see us enter one of the worst, if not the worst, recession of all time, to the point of like a Great Depression. Market collapses, and then the Fed has nowhere to go but to run QE again and keep printing and printing and printing and artificially suppressing the market again, because it's going to say, oh, well, it's a crisis now. We said we were going to raise rates and we can't stop inflation. So we have to start printing again. We're just going to have to live with inflation. We're going to have to live with the printing press, and we're just going to keep rates at 0%. They might even, mark my words, they might even go negative. They say they're going to raise it up to 0.9%, which is nothing. That can't stop a CPI at 7%. Do they think we're stupid? Like, what? The data is clear. From 79 to 83, they dropped it down to 3% inflation from 15% inflation because they raised it to 20% to stop it in 1980. It took, and it also, even by raising it to 20%, it still took 3 years to get it back down to 3% in 1983. Jerome Powell, are you looking at the same data that I'm looking at? Because what I'm looking at tells me that you're full of it, and obviously full of it. Anyways, thanks for listening to me vent, everybody in here. If you like this type of content, if you like that I'm really telling it from the heart here, this is real. Are we still live? Let me check the comments real quick, guys. Let me look here. I think we're back live now. I'm not 100%, but I think we're live. Might have been talking a little bit too much about calling the Fed on their bluff. Maybe they got a hunch that somebody was calling the bluff on YouTube. But we're back now. We're back. We're good now. All right. So maybe if you're not subscribed to the channel, this might give you the sign to please do go follow me on the other social medias as well. If you're not following me on Instagram and stuff like that, just in case things don't work out, would really appreciate you following me there. I have been posting a lot on the Instagram lately and all of that. So just at Rob Soltan on Instagram. But it seems that we had a little bit of a chop. And oh, by the way, I have high-speed internet, and I'm directly connected with the Ethernet on a brand new computer, guys. So I mean, anybody that thinks that I don't have good equipment here, I have like $15,000 invested in my equipment. So I have good equipment. I'm using the top of the line mic. I'm using the top of the line Rodecaster thing. I got the top of the line everything here. I'm even using brand new Cat. I think it's like a Cat 8 cable directly connected to the Ethernet on a brand new computer. So I'm pretty good, guys. I'm pretty good on the internet. So maybe something, I don't know what the deal was there, but we're back now. We're back now. Everybody's saying we're back now. And I was just about to get to the comments. So hopefully the video, when I post it, doesn't show like a lag or something like that. But luckily, before we pulled off of, before we got interrupted there, I went over all the points that I wanted to go over. So I'm happy about that. But let's get to the comments now. So if I missed any of your comments, let me check here. There's a lot of comments. So we'll start at the bottom here. We'll start at the bottom. The video, someone says the video is very low quality, very blurry. Huh. You guys, I'm looking at the comments right now. So if you want to ask a question, let me know what the quality's like. People are saying it's good. Sound is good. Huh. Okay, someone said it was the other person, so it's all good. Everybody's saying it's fine. Cool. Luckily, this was towards the end of the video, so we're going over. Now I'm just going to be hanging out with everybody here. We're up to 140 likes on here. If we get to 200 likes, I'll flip the timer. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a night in about maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes or so, and then we can post the video. But that was very strange. I mean, my internet is very good. I'll double check on my internet speed and everything after this stream because I want to make sure my streams are on point on YouTube because I really do love doing these streams. But yeah, so we were talking about a lot of truth and suddenly just poof out of nowhere this stream. But we're back now. We're back. All right, I'm going through the comments right now. So if I don't think I missed any super chats or anything like that. So we're good. We're good. If I did, let me know. Again, please follow me on Instagram and on Twitter and all of that, because if you do that, I have other places as well. If you kind of catch my my drift. So please do follow me on Instagram at Rob Soltan on Instagram. I'm also posting a lot of my pieces of collectibles and things like that, and I'm actually getting back to the DMs. There's a couple hundred DMs, so I'm slowly working through those. I probably, if you're watching this, I might have already got back to you, but if I haven't, I will get back to you on the DMs on Instagram. So please do shoot me a DM if you haven't there, and if you have any questions, would be happy to get back to you on the Instagram. Every morning I'm going through like 20, 30 of them. Sometimes I'm knocking out like 50 of them, but there's a couple hundred. So by Sunday, I should get through all of the DMs on Instagram, but please do follow me on Instagram at Rob Soltan on Instagram. Really would appreciate it. But I'm looking at the comments right now. Somebody said refreshing the browser fixed the blur. So if you've got a blurry video, just refresh your browser and you should be fine. JP Scarpelli says, hey Rob, can you address gold ETFs? I'm holding one that's down 25%, wondering if I should cut my losses. I don't believe in ETFs, period. If you watch my videos on the channel, I mean, I believe if you're going to be in silver, be in the real thing. Because guess what? I got it. Nobody can change the fact that there's 600 ounces of silver in front of me. There is no digital screen of nothingness that I have to rely on. I know I have 600 ounces of silver, and I'm not willing to sell my 600 ounces of silver for the artificial price that they're saying. So that's where I'm at. I believe in the physical silver. Even when it comes to, I believe there's better ETFs than SLV out there. There's PSLV, which people say is better, but I don't believe in any ETF. I believe in holding the real thing. Hold the real physical item. There's nothing better than that. Same thing with like Bitcoin. I don't believe in a Bitcoin ETF. If you're going to buy Bitcoin, buy the real thing, put it in your own storage. Buy the real silver, put it in your own safe. I don't believe in ETFs. I don't like it. So that's how I feel about them. I personally would take the money out and put it. If I believed in gold, I believe in silver more than gold myself. I would much rather be in industrial precious metals than gold. But if I believe in gold, I would rather just have the real gold. So I'd take my money out and I'd put it in a real gold. Just my personal opinion, not financial advice. Physical is the real thing. If you can't hold it in your hand, it doesn't exist. If you don't have it in your own storage, it doesn't exist. Yeah, a Sprott ETF is like the worst case scenario, but still I believe in holding the physical. Get to a few more comments here. Oh, if we get to 200 likes, I'll keep the stream going, and then maybe we'll get shut down at some point. I'm just hoping that the video gets posted. The only thing I'm wondering is I'm hoping the video doesn't get messed up from the first chop off or how whatever happened. It said resume live, so I clicked resume. So I hope it's still under the same one. We just saw a little blank spot or something like that. But I'm hoping the original video didn't get messed up. The video is in great quality. Don't worry. Cool. Appreciate the heads up. I do agree that platinum is the sleeper next to silver. That's where my belief is. I got my money where my mouth is on that one as well. Platinum is just so wildly undervalued. It blows my mind. I'm probably going to make a few more videos on platinum and what it's being used for and stuff, because there's other uses for platinum than catalytic converters that's going on right now. And it's such a unique metal that there's going to be more uses for it in the future as well. And there's just such a little supply out there of platinum. And the funny thing is we're talking about a market in the hundreds of billions, not even over $1 trillion like silver and gold. I mean, platinum is such a tiny, tiny market. Industrial precious metals are so undervalued. And if they raise rates and they make it so hard to get into real estate, that money is going to want to flood out of bonds. It's going to want to flood out of equities. And where's it going to go? If it can't go to real estate because the rates are too high, it's going to go into other safe haven assets like silver, like gold, like platinum, palladium, and it's also going to go into Bitcoin. It's going to go into those places and not real estate. So it's funny that nobody seems to be talking about if they raise rates, it's going to completely devastate the real estate market to the point where I'm going to make a video about it right after this one to post on the channel. You're just getting the first take of it here on the live stream, but excuse me, I want to give more information on how I think the real estate market is going to get dramatically affected by them raising rates. And nobody's looking at it. It's crazy. It's just what's just so wild to me is how tightly bound it's really become. It's like you would expect it to have snapped by now. This tightly bound ball of fake nothingness the Fed has created. Like, it's just crazy that it's gotten this tight and this bound. It just doesn't make any sense to me. When you go over the real data, something's off. Something's really off. I'm wondering, what's funny is like my channel was growing at a certain rate where we were growing like 1,000 subscribers a week at one point. Like, it was growing super fast. And suddenly I started talking about the Fed a lot, not growing as fast. I don't know. Maybe if you like, please click the subscribe. Please do. It really does help the channel grow. But it's very odd to me. There's some, maybe I gotta, it's odd. There's some odd stuff. Maybe this video will prove otherwise. If we have 230 people in the live, wow, we have 230 people in the live stream. If some of you guys click the subscribe, I'll know it's actually working, because it seems very strange. I've been at 24K for a while. We're almost at 25K. So if you share the channel on other social medias, if you get this information out there, maybe it'll help. But it's been very odd. I've been stuck on 24. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But obviously we got some people in this live stream, so something's working there. Get out the pillow, smash the like. Oh yeah, we're only 10 likes away. You're gonna make me put my money where my mouth is. If we get to 200 likes, I'll flip the timer over and we'll go for a little bit longer with the comment section and everything. Yeah, it's your own pals, friends. It could be me, Custom Girl. You never know. It could be. It's the crisp white t-shirt. Yeah. It could be true, Rick. It could be true. It could be true. But we're starting up the channel. I'm gonna put out so much content that I can't be stopped. I'm just gonna keep putting out content. I'm just gonna keep putting it out there and just see what happens. Doing live streams, keep it going. Oh, we're way over 200 now. Now we're over. I should be like, oh, just kidding. I said 250 likes. I said 200. Just all right, I appreciate it, guys. If you want to keep smashing the like button and getting this information out there, maybe you can hack the algorithm. Maybe that's the way it does it. If you get enough likes on there, maybe that gets the information out there. It gets the content out there. If I get enough people to subscribe in the live stream, maybe that's what helps get the content out there. So far, we're back in action, and the live stream's back in action. So maybe it was a fluke situation. Maybe the internet just randomly went down, even though I'm connected with a Cat 8 cable. But we're going to keep it going. We're going to keep it going. I'm looking at the comment sections right now. Looking at the comment section. Aaron says, love the increased video content this week, Rob. Hey, I appreciate it, Aaron. I appreciate that you noticed, man. I've been putting, I think I did like 4 or 5 videos in the last 7 days. I'm planning to get to a level where I'd like to get like 2 videos out a day. And so if you subscribe to the channel, it really helps with getting that content out there. And this video is probably might help with it. I don't know what'll happen. I hope I'm still allowed to post it, even though it got kind of split up in the beginning. Luckily, it was towards the middle of the video. But if you're in here, of the 240 people, if you could click that subscribe. I know I ask a bunch. I know it's super annoying when people say that. Really does help the channel if you could click the subscribe. If you're not following me on Instagram, so I give out, like right now, if you go to my Instagram and you check the story on Instagram, you'll see that I put in the story when I'm going live. So I said going live in 15 minutes. I always give a heads up on Instagram. So if you want a heads up on any of my videos, as well as seeing like all the collectibles I'm into, go to my Instagram and follow @RobSoltan on Instagram. That way I'm able to let you know, hey, I'm going live, and you don't have to just only know about notifications here. You'll get a notification there as well. If you check my story on Instagram, you'll see, oh, he's going live, and I'll give a little bit more of a heads up in the future, maybe like 5 hours in advance or something like that, so people know when I'm going to go live, when the next video is going to come out, when I do post the next video, so you don't have to rely just on one source. You could see it on Instagram as well. So @RobSoltan on Instagram, please do go follow me there. And also, if you have any questions that I missed in the comment section, please do shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm getting back to every single DM, whether it takes me 2 weeks. I'm getting back to every single DM. I'm knocking out like 40 of them every morning, 50 of them every morning. And if you have a question, shoot me a question there. Again, I'm getting very active on Instagram, so @RobSoltan on Instagram. Please do follow me there. Could you post collectible pictures on Twitter as well? Maybe in the future. The Twitter crowd is like a Bitcoin only crowd. I noticed that the Instagram crowd is more a lot of silver stackers, gold stackers, collectibles individuals, people in like rare watches and stuff like that tend to be on Instagram, because we can actually show the photos and it gives you this kind of neat catalog to scroll through. When you go to my profile on Instagram, you'll see what I'm talking about. You have like a neat catalog, 3 pictures apart, and you can just kind of scroll through all the photos and stuff. On Twitter, it's kind of a free-for-all frenzy, and so it tends to be more about like cool quotes and Bitcoin, and then that crowd, and more on Twitter, it seems like. Rob, your silver must get inside my belly. I think that guy liked gold. I think he was more into gold, actually. But we're going to get to a few more of these comments here. Actually, a lot more of them. We're at 235 likes. I said 200. If we're 235 likes, I appreciate you guys liking that. So hopefully if we get enough likes on these live streams, it just has to push the content out there. We get enough. I mean, we got 230 people in here. If we all like it and we all get this content out there, I mean, we almost got everybody in here. We almost have more likes than we do viewers, that's interesting. But maybe we keep it going. If you hit the like button, maybe I'll get my fancy pillow. You could hit that like button, or maybe if you don't like the video, you can hit the dislike. I mean, I prefer a like button, but if you hit hit the like button. Really would appreciate it. It does get this content out to more people. It does help with the algorithms and stuff from what I'm told. So the more comments, the more likes, you know that the content is real. Maybe that helps with the algorithm. Maybe we can get these videos out to more people. We'll see what happens. Hopefully this video actually gets posted. I'd be bummed out if we missed the beginning part of this video, because I'd have to re-record those points to get it out there. And I will do that. If it does do that, I still will do that, because I want to get this information out to more people. But hopefully if you were here in the beginning of this, you know how valuable that information was. I want to get that information out to more people, so hopefully it does work. I'm gonna go through some more comments here. I'm looking, if you have a question, I'm looking at the comments right now. He said help with the algorithm. Yeah, if you hit the like button, if you comment, it does help with the algorithm, I'm told. So hopefully it does. Yo, Rob, do you have time to exercise daily? Absolutely. If I don't exercise daily, what I've noticed is, I mean, we're basically this talking blob of H2O and blood. You know, it's pretty much what we are. And when you go running, or if you do some sort of exercise, the blood starts pumping in your body. A lot of people, they think they're tired, and they drink a bunch of caffeine, and they drink a bunch of energy drinks and stuff like that. That doesn't actually give you energy. That just, it's like hacks your brain to make you think that you're more awake, but it doesn't actually give you energy. Caffeine doesn't equate to energy, even though we're told it's an energy drink. It doesn't give you any energy. What does give you energy is when you go on a run and your blood starts circulating through your body and goes up through your brain and moves all through your body. So I have to exercise, otherwise I won't be crisp. The more if I sound more intelligent in a video, it's because I probably exercised before. You know, during that day, because my blood's moving. You got to do something to get your blood moving, and especially if you do it in the morning. I have the best days and the most productive days if I wake up at like 4:30 and I go on a run early in the morning. Those are my best, most productive days. I'm way more productive if I do that. And I woke up at 4:30 at the same time, didn't work out, and I spent an hour working out on another time. If I did 2 separate days, one day I didn't work out, one day I did. I started at the same time, everything like that. But only one day I worked out. I have a way more productive day on the day I exercise. So I have to. Otherwise, I'm just not productive. Someone just asked, Robert Suzor just asked, Rob, why did silver pop today? I talked about it for like 30 minutes prior to this. You're going to have to watch the video when I post it. Hopefully when I post it, it gets out there. I went over like all 5 points already of why it popped, or why I think it's popping. But it will be posted. It will be posted. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe, because all the live streams are posted if it lets me. So far, so good. Every time I've done a live stream, it's posted and it's been fine. So hopefully this one's fine as well. I do have it clicked to post after I'm done with the live stream. So hopefully it didn't get lost when we got stopped for a second. So, but it paused. If it paused for you, and then if you stayed in the stream, that would mean that it's still on the same stream. So hopefully it's still there. I think it's still there. Good thing we reset the sand clock. You did win. We're up to, like I said, 200 likes. I'd reset it, and we're at 267. So everybody who's liking this, you guys are helping me get this in. And actually, every time it goes up on the like count, the number of people in here goes up as well. So it's obviously doing something for the algorithm. So when you hit the like, it is getting this information out to more people, and it's spreading awareness on this. So please do hit the like. If you haven't, really would appreciate it. It does help with the channel. If you take that split half a second to click from green to blue, really does help if you hit the like button. So obviously it's working, because we keep going up more viewers because of that. But also the video, I'm going to post this video on the page, obviously. So if you missed the beginning part, it will be posted. So please do click the subscribe. Really would appreciate you clicking the subscribe. And then also you'll see the video when it does get posted if you go and you check the channel. If I'm looking over here, it's because I'm looking at the comments right now. I'm going through the comments. Josh says, I got the notification really late. See, this is why, like, if you're not following me on Instagram, please do follow me on Instagram, because I'm giving the heads up in my Instagram stories. So if you go to my Instagram, like, hang on, let me pull it up. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. What's up, Brian? Ryan just texted me. Hang on here. So So if I go to my Instagram, like you'll see, this is my Instagram at Rob Soltan on Instagram. These are all my, like I put pictures of like my collectibles and things that I collect on Instagram there. But also what I do is before I go live, if you click the story, like it says going live in 5 minutes on YouTube. See how I'm away from the mic. See how it says going live in 5 minutes on YouTube? If you click the little story right there on my Instagram, I'll give a heads up whenever I'm going live, so you'll get an extra notification there. A lot of people have been telling me the notifications are been late, so if you follow me on Instagram, you'll get a notification there as well. And so I plan, and I gave like a 5 minute notice. In the future, I'm going to give like a few hours notice, so you'll get say, hey, I'm going live at 5 p.m. Pacific or something like that in the future. And I'll let you know on the Instagram as well. So just check my story on Instagram, and I will let people know there as well. Excuse me. But that's really the best thing I can do because then we get multiple notifications. Zilla says, Rob, tell them to click the bell behind the subscribe button to get all notifications. That is also what you need to do. Thank you for bringing that up, Zilla. I appreciate that. I haven't been saying that actually. If you click the subscribe and then the bell afterwards, you get notified of all future videos. So make sure you hit the bell after the subscribe. I've been forgetting to say that. I appreciate you reminding me, Zilla. Best place to buy silver, Mineral Exchange. No, I'm actually been redesigning the website in the future from me, but for right now, I mean, go to your local coin shop. Give your local coin shop some love. You know, I think that that's a good idea. There's a lot of places to get the physical, but make sure you get the physical and not the artificial ETF. Get the real thing. But I think that there's all kinds of places online. I will be launching something in the very near future. You'll probably, and if you're not following me on Instagram, that would be a good place to shoot me a DM. If you are interested in getting in physical silver, I can help you. I am in the wholesale business in physical silver. So if you need help with it, shoot me a DM on Instagram. If you want to give me some business, you can go to me on Instagram. But I don't like to kind of show myself in my videos. I just like to put these videos out there and get information out there. Otherwise, it's just not real. But in the future, there's going to be some information on that on my Instagram. That's true, Wild West Stacker. I'm working on some stuff on the back end on the website. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work building stuff. It really is not easy, especially when I'm doing the YouTube videos at the same time and doing all this stuff at once. I do a lot of live streams and stuff on Facebook and other places, but right now I've been taking a little bit of time off to redesign things. Sometimes it's better to measure twice and cut once than to constantly cut. I think what was it the terminology that I think it was like a Lincoln thing, where he said, oh, I remember it. He said, if I had a week to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 5 days sharpening my axe. So right now I'm kind of sharpening things, and eventually there'll be some stuff in the future. We're at 300 likes up in here. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for hitting the like button. But let's go through, I'm going through some more comments here. Wild West Stacker says, keep up the work, Rob. I would love to buy some silver from you. I appreciate that, man. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. If you're interested in getting some silver from Mineral Exchange, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll help out everybody that shoots me a DM on Instagram. It's been going through a lot of work lately with everything I've been building. People will see in the near future what I've been working on, but I just don't want to talk about it until it actually exists. Otherwise, it's just talk. You know, it's like it's got to be an action, otherwise I don't want to talk about it. But in the future, expect some announcements, especially on the Instagram. There's going to be some announcements there. But Nigel says, hit the like button, hit the like. I appreciate that, Nigel. Thank you, man. It means a lot to me. Bigger the bar, the smaller the premium. That is true. That's why, if you notice, like whenever I have silver out, it's usually 100-ounce bricks. I like hundreds. Hundreds is a good weight class to me because the premium goes lower on 100, and on top of it, it's like an easy weight to disperse. When you buy 1,000, now 1,000 is hard to resell because you're talking about a 70-pound, brick, and you guys have seen me with my thousands. It's heavy, and so it's hard to move that around. But with 100, and it's also hard to find, the thing is you have to find one person to buy it because you can't chop it into pieces. So that's why the premium goes up on the smaller 1-ounce pieces, because it's so much easier to part out. But at the same time, the premium goes up. So I think 100 is like the perfect placement of where you want to be. But again, if you want help on more of a personal basis, just shoot me a DM on Instagram, and then I can actually help you on an individual basis. And what I got to do is, every morning for the next week, I just got to sit there and knock out like 40, 50 of them every single day, maybe even more. So tomorrow morning, I'll probably get back to like 100 people on Instagram. The DMs, I think I have like 200 some odd DMs on my Instagram. So I've been putting it on the side, but if you have a question or if you're interested in getting in kind of the wholesale level, right now I'm on more of a wholesale level. So if you're interested in being in on a wholesale level of silver where you're talking about buying like 500 ounces, 1,000 ounces, something like that, I'd be more than happy to help you out, and I could get the premium as low as possible, being that I don't have to deal with all of the expenses of the big dealers. If it's on an individual basis like that through the Instagram, I can help you out on an individual basis a lot easier that way, especially with wholesale, and I probably could beat every single dealer online because I just don't have the same overhead. But shoot me a DM on Instagram if you want help on a wholesale basis. Let me get to a few more comments here. My comments are being... I don't think so, Tonto. I see your comment. 1,000 ounces into loaf slices, the new thing. You know, I do know some of the... If you notice on Instagram, there's a lot of people that pour silver, like pour their own bars, and what they do is they get 1,000, they melt down 1,000 into silver shot, and then they make bars from the thousands. They start with 1,000, melt it down into shot, and then they use the shot. Seems like a lot of work, but it gets your premium down. So a lot of people do that. Rob, do you show some articles? You have to show some articles, go over 3 to 4 story, cut the vid to 10 minutes and 3 seconds to make it and make a daily content for that. You know, there actually is some truth to that. COD daily, there is some truth to that. And if you notice, a lot of my videos are like 12 minutes, 13 minutes long, and I've been posting a lot more. The live streams, though, I miss the live streams because I miss being interactive with the audience. So I plan to do like at least 2 live streams, maybe 3 live streams a week. This is actually the second one in the last week, so I'm starting to bump up the live streams a little bit. But definitely, you're definitely right when it comes to getting in the algorithm. It's not easy. YouTube algorithm is not easy. So to get to 25, like the fact that I'm almost at 25K subscribers, I'm still stoked about that. I've been kind of plateauing a bit. So if you could click the subscribe in this video, because we have 250 people in here, I would definitely notice a difference if a lot of people click the subscribe. I think that these live streams do help. But I'm getting so close. I think I'm like 400 subscribers away from 25K. So like if you could help. If just everybody told 2 friends, I would get there. If everybody in this live stream told 2 friends to subscribe to the channel, or if you post it on your Instagram or whatever, it really does mean a lot to me. Again, in my videos, I don't like to sell things to anybody. I just want to get this information out there. If you've noticed that, if you've been following me for a long time, that's what I do. It's also kind of, I said this in the last video, it helps me vent. When I look up this information and I find out just how much we're being fed, just lies, I want to get this information out because it helps me vent. Otherwise, I just go crazy and start banging my head against a wall because I'm like, what do you mean? They can't raise it a measly 0.9%. They had to raise it to 20% in 1980 to stop inflation. This is completely like, what are they talking about for an hour or whatever when they do these Fed meetings? What is this, just dancing around, like totally beating around the bush? Powell knows what's up. Powell knows who Paul Volcker is. Powell knows what he had to do to stop inflation in 1980. He had to raise it to over 20%. And then the prime rates on real estate had to go to 21.5% then, and it made real estate markets plummet. It made the equities market plummet. It made us go into a recession. And what did it do? It stopped inflation because by 1983, inflation was down to 3%. I'm the crazy lunatic that actually looks up this data. So sorry, Powell. Sorry, pal, but I actually looked up the real details, and it's in the beginning of this video, so hopefully this video posts and everything's fine with it. Free Like Summer, I appreciate that. He gave me a super chat and says, Rob, would you do an interview with Ivan and Jim from Wall Street Silver? Would you post on Reddit? Silverbacks welcome you. Hey, I appreciate that. You know, Ivan or somebody who is in control of Wall Street Silver posted something about Bitcoin that just wasn't true a little while ago on Twitter. Maybe I ruffled their feathers the wrong way, but they used to ask me, hey, will you come on the channel or something like that? And, it's up to them. Ball's in their court, because for some reason, they don't like that I talk about Bitcoin in addition to precious metals. I've been talking about Bitcoin since it was under 10,000 on the channel, but I think it's like I always saw Bitcoin as a great insurance play. A great way to store money in the digital realm. And so they didn't really like that much. But I'd be more than up to it. And I think I even told Jim that. I called him out and said, hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about silver. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Let's talk about it all. I'd love to talk about it. But we had a little bit of a back and forth on Twitter a little while ago. But would be more than happy to. More than happy to. If you got to maybe go comment on their posts, tell them on their forums or whatever. Yeah, Rob would love to talk. But if you subscribe to the channel, then it gets me more, maybe I need more clout to talk with them. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but would be more than happy to. It's not me holding it up. I can tell you that much. Definitely not me. Let's see. Maybe they're watching. I don't know. I don't know. Do a silver podcast with Rogan. Yeah, I would love to do that. If you subscribe to the channel and we get enough big interviews on here, maybe in the future, I won't take it out of the universe. If you put it in the universe, I won't take it out of the universe. I would love to do that at some point, but I have to get some more subscribers. If you guys click the subscribe button, would really appreciate it. Last Living Old Cowboy says silver is still too expensive. I don't agree. I think silver is like ridiculously underpriced, and I went over that in the beginning of the video quite a bit on why I think it's so underpriced. But just to go back over it real quick, let me show you what I was talking about for a little bit in the beginning of the video. Let me see. So back when historical inflation was at all-time highs, which I would argue right now we're at all-time high inflation. We're just not being told the real CPI data. That's just my personal opinion. Disclaimer, keep the live stream going. But we were up at the highest point. It was at 14.8% in 1980, which is right here. It was at 14.8% at these levels, was at the all-time high. This is the yearly, so it's not showing the true high. The true high was 14.8% in March of 1980. And in March of 1980, we can go back to the chart of silver. So back when we had inflation at these levels, silver, and this is back in the 80s before all the money printing, back at these levels, that was back when silver was at just under 50 in the 80s. We saw it spike when we saw inflation spike at the same time. So right now we're seeing inflation spike, but we're just sitting at this tiny low level of 23 and change, 23 and 40 cents. That doesn't make any sense. And then we're also seeing a detachment from the stock market. So silver, this is just going over briefly what I talked about in the beginning of this video a bit. Silver, we see a spike right now at the same time that we're seeing the stock market on the 5-day pulling back. So we see the NASDAQ pulling back, we see the S&P pulling back, but we're seeing silver shooting up at the same time. That's a very interesting detachment there, in addition to inflation being at the, I think, is the highest levels we've ever seen. So again, inflation back here, this is back when inflation was at the high levels, but this is a different CPI. If we use the same CPI, again, that we used back in 1979, 1980, it would show that this number here is well over 15%. And so that tells me that we're not seeing the whole tail of the take here. We're not seeing the whole card. But then on top of that, I didn't go in this at the beginning of the video, so I'll go over this as well. But I was going to leave this for the real estate video I'm about to post. But I think we're in stagflation right now. So to get to stagflation, you need high inflation, which is what we have here. We have high inflation, and you also need high unemployment. This is something I haven't talked about yet in this live stream. So for everybody in here, wow, we have 275 people in here. I appreciate it. Smash that like button, and it gets it out to more people. It's obviously working. So appreciate everybody for smashing that like button. But if we go to the national, this is actually the unemployment. Now, this chart here is mind-boggling to me because you see it kind of being not really steady, like it's going up, going down, going up. But when we see what happened at the beginning of everything, we saw a spike at the beginning of all the shutdowns and everything to 15% on the unemployment. So to get to stagflation, which is the same thing that we saw that Paul Volcker had to take over in 79 and 80. So in the early 80s, we had serious stagflation, and that's why they had to raise rates to that 20%. But right now, we're told that it peaked at 15% and it somehow plummeted after all the lockdowns and everything. It's down from that high of a level. This chart doesn't make any sense here. I think Powell made this chart. I'm pretty sure, because to go to 15% on that, but it gets better. This is the initial jobless claims chart. So here's the initial jobless claims chart. Yeah, let's totally believe it went from that big of a spike on unemployment It went all the way up like that. This is a chart from the 70s, so we have relatively same numbers. And then at the beginning of all this gnarly spike in unemployment, and we're supposed to believe that it's back down to normal levels that quick? I don't know about you, but I think there's a little bit more damage to that, to the job market. This doesn't make any sense. So I think that just like the CPI is artificially low, I think this is way more than enough evidence for me to be looking at to see that, okay, there's something not being told to us on how many people are really unemployed right now. We ought to see what the real data is when it comes to unemployment, because this doesn't make any sense. And then you also look up the industrial production. Industrial production, it was going straight up, and then recently it started to go, and this is actually before all of this. So in 2000, we saw production go kind of flat, and it's been just coiling down. So production is low. So economic production is low. Unemployment is higher than we're being told, and inflation is higher than we're being told. That is literally the definition of stagflation. If you look up stagflation definition, it is literally those three things: low economic production, high unemployment, and high inflation. It's stagflation. And this is exactly what happened where Paul Volcker had to raise the rates to 20% to stop it. And what are they doing? What's Powell doing to stop it? Oh, we're going to raise it to 0.9% by 2023. Yeah, that'll really stop it. We'll stop the printing press. We'll stop doing QE. Well, guess what? They're still doing QE. The rates are still at 0%, and the stock market's already showing weakness. So what are you going to do, pal? What are you going to do when you raise it a measly 0.25% on your first rate hike of 4 rate hikes to make it seem like you're actually doing something? You should have raised it to 10% in one day. You didn't need 4 separate rate hikes to go to a measly 0.9%. Do they think we don't look at the actual data? Do you think we just hear like, oh, well, he's doing 4 rate hikes, he must be taking control of things? No, he's not. He's not even raising it to 1%. Paul Volcker, again, so if he's not even raising it to 1%, by the way, he hasn't done anything. The rates are still at 0%. The printing press is still running. QE isn't over. He's not raising rates at all. He hasn't done anything yet. So they're talking about it. And just talking about it shows that the stock market's already kind of feeling that just from talking about it. But what happens when they actually raise it? They're going to raise it a tiny to 0.9% over 4 rate hikes when they need to raise it to 20% like they did in 1980 to actually do anything. Now, what would happen if they raised it to 20%? What would happen if they did what Paul Volcker did and they raised it to 20% in 1980 to actually stop it? Real estate would plummet, stock market would plummet, silver would skyrocket, Bitcoin would skyrocket, all precious metals really would skyrocket, all safe haven assets would skyrocket. But I think what a lot of people aren't talking about is how much it would damage the real estate market if loans were that expensive. That's what people don't realize. When they raise rates, that dramatically affects the real estate market because it's harder to get a loan and more expensive to get a loan. Real estate is so artificially hiked up right now in prices because money is so easy to get and people are using that money as leverage. But if they raise rates, that changes everything. Changes everything. It means if they raise rates, that means you want to get out of the stock market, you want to get out of real estate, and you want to get into safe haven assets. So all of these things are lining up for silver, really. And I mean, all safe haven assets. So that's how I feel about it. So if you agree with me, smash the like button. If you disagree with me, hit the dislike button. I don't think anybody would see the dislike button anyway these days, but you could do that. But I would appreciate it if you smash the like button. But let me know what you guys think of all of these comments that I've been making about silver. We've been live for a good amount of time now. It says 37 minutes, but I think that's showing when I went back live on the screen right now. I think we've been live over an hour, but I get lost rambling a little bit. But yeah, people don't tend to talk about what's going to go on in real estate. People, the more I look into it, I'm like, the data is clear on what happened when they did this last time. And the key dates to look into is 1979 to 1983 when Paul Volcker was in charge. That was a very interesting time. And you got to give Paul Volcker credit. He did what had to happen. But also, Paul Volcker, he went under Nixon. He was the one who went in, I think he was the Secretary of Treasury under Nixon, and he was the one who kind of convinced Nixon to drop off the gold standard. So Paul Volcker isn't exactly the greatest guy ever. But so he kind of probably caused this mess, really. He was the Secretary of Treasury, kind of caused the mess, and then to get us out of the mess that they caused, him and Nixon, then they had to raise rates to 20%. And that's what caused this whole fake money printing press. So Paul Volcker really, he got us in the mess, got us out of the mess, and then kicked the can really far down the road to 2022. And then now here we are picking up Paul Volcker's mess. Is what it is. Crypto King, appreciate the super chat. He says, the governments will keep cash as king for many years. We are being ran by a bunch of crooks. Crypto King, you said it. You said it. No, I've probably said the same thing a bajillion times. I agree with you. It gets me worried when the live stream drops off and stuff. I'm like, I gotta speak a proper anyway. But I agree. I agree. 1 hour and 8 minutes is the stream I am watching. Okay, cool. So that means it's showing you the original stream as well. On mine it shows 40 minutes, but I had to restart it, so it's showing from restart. See, I went for another 30 minutes, guys. I went for another 30 minutes. We'll keep going with a little bit more comments. I don't know if we can go for another 30 minutes. You know, I'll tell you what. I'll make it hard. I'm going to make it hard this time and do like because we have 300 people in here. If we get to 450 likes, because some of these people might just be jumping in and you haven't gotten the likes. If we get to 450 likes, I'll raise it I'll do another 30 minutes. Otherwise, I'll do like another 10 minutes. But if we get to 450 likes, I will do that. I will appreciate it if you do. I'll even help you guys out. If you hit the like button, would really appreciate it. If you smash the like, mainly because I want to see if my content can get out there to more people. This video should be a video that gets out there to a lot of people. So hopefully, if we got this many likes in here and we've had this many people in here commenting, hopefully it shows the YouTube algorithm, hey, you got to show this video out to more people. Hopefully it works. Otherwise, there's something going on, but I hope not. Foul Player, I put all the pictures of them on my Instagram right now. I have 2 in my collection right now. I'm very selective on the Rolexes I buy in my collection. They have to be full set with all the original paperwork. I like the vintage market. There's certain things I like to get at. Anthony, that's funny. But I will post all the types of Rolexes I buy. This actually isn't just for isn't cloud and image and all of that, even though it's like a gaudy piece. It's kind of a bit of both, but this I bought it and it's up like a few $1,000s from what I bought it for. So I mean, the vintage Rolex market is a great investment in my opinion. So I will post more about that on the Instagram as well. If you want to see like close-up pictures of my watches and collectibles and stuff, at Rob Soltan on Instagram, make sure to follow me there. Again, I'm showing him in my story mode on Instagram. I'm giving you a notification as well. Like if you check my story right now, it'll show, hey, I'm going live in 5 minutes. So I'm giving notifications of when I'm going live or when I'm posting a new video on YouTube, on Instagram, so that I have other places to give a notification out. Otherwise, make sure that you click the subscribe button and the bell on here, because I guess if you click the bell afterwards, I appreciate Zilla bringing that up earlier in the live stream. Make sure you click the subscribe and the bell, and then it will give you all notifications. Yeah, Rick, I'm getting bigger and bigger into Rolexes and stuff like that, so I plan on expanding into that category as well. But I'm very selective. I don't like to just get it for getting it. I like to make sure that the watch is undervalued. Jason says, do you think, I appreciate the super chat, Jason says, do you think Basel III will affect precious metals values? I got to make a video specifically on Basel III. A lot of people bring it up. I'm more so interested in like the real, like it's an interesting concept, but I'm more interested on like the data in a way, like looking at, like for example, like today seeing this detachment, that's something that I'm looking for. It seems like everybody's looking at like that type of thing, looking into Basel III, looking into all of that, but I would rather look into what's happening right now and what's happening with the DXY, what's happening with the stock market. If the stock market's pulling back, is silver going up? These are the types of things that actually give me a real indication on where things are going in the near term and the long term. But I'm looking at a couple of different places, but I should make a video on that in the future. So if you subscribe to the channel, I will make a video specifically on Basel III in the future. But I appreciate the super chat. Thank you, man. Jamie says, hi, Rob. How many ounces of silver would you need to ride the wealth transfer wave after Gov inevitably reprices silver? Can you have too much silver? You can never have too much silver. Ape strong, silver squirrel strong. But no, I mean, I've talked about this in prior videos when people ask me this exact question. My exact answer to this question is, if you are worried about, like, say you have a nest egg of 100 grand, and that's a big number. Say it's 10 grand. Say you have a nest egg of 10 grand, right? So this here is 600 ounces of silver. You're talking about, I mean, this is a price of, you're getting closer to, my brain is a little, I've been doing this live stream for a while, but you're talking it's like somewhere between $12,000 and $14,000 or something like that. So say you had $10,000 to invest, and you could buy, say this costs, say this is $13,000. Say this is $13,000 here, which it pretty much is. It is. But say you got that. Would you put your entire $13,000 into this and store these bricks, these 600 ounces of silver here, and put them in a safe, and that's all you do? I wouldn't do that. What I would do is I'd take that $13,000 and start a business with that and get cash flow going so that I can consistently buy silver, consistently buy Bitcoin, consistently buy all precious metals, palladium, platinum, all of them with my cash flow. That's what a lot of people take out of the equation. It's not about how do I selectively put what I'm worth right now into things so I can, turn and get rich in the future. If you want to get wealthy, you need cash flow, period. You're not going to get wealthy by selectively putting your money into places. I mean, maybe if you got lucky, you got in Bitcoin early, you got in Tesla early or something like that. But in today's day and age, the real straight and narrow path that always works is hard work and building a cash flow machine. Some sort of cash flow machine. It's got to come to you. And that's what I would do with the capital. But if how much is enough, it all depends on how much cash flow you get every month. That's what I would say. Make sure you got a cash flow going and then worry about that. But that's a genuine answer. Not everybody's going to give you that answer. A lot of YouTube channels out there, a lot of people on Instagram or whatnot are going to tell you 1,000 ounces makes you a king in the future. It's like, no. What makes you a king in the future is if you have a cash flow machine consistently mining fiat for you. Consistently, if they have a money printer, make your own money printer. Make sure that you have your own cash flow machine going. That's something that I've always talked about on the channel, and I won't stray away from that. I just don't think that the idea, because, I mean, to me, 1,000 ounces isn't enough. To somebody else, 1,000 ounces is enough. So it depends on wherever your cash flow machine has gotten you or wherever you are at in life. But I don't believe in selectively moving the needle in that, if that makes sense. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much on that, but I think that is really, that's genuine advice. Not financial advice, actually. I can't say that. Not advice. Everything I say here is not financial advice. Disclaimer, just a YouTuber. But that's something that comes from the heart, because I sell silver. So I could be like, exactly 1,000 ounces. Hit me up in the DMs on Instagram. I'll help you out on a wholesale basis. But at the same time, I want to give real information. That's what I think is real information. If you agree, smash the like button. Really, really appreciate that. But that's Jamie, that's genuine information that I would that's what I would do in that position. I can say that. Can't say it's financial advice. It's not financial advice. It's what I would do in that situation. When talking about crypto, I always say this is technology. When talking about crypto, good idea to have cash flow and buy silver with that. Yeah. I mean, that's what I would do personally. Anytime I have extra profits or something like that, I put it into silver. I put it into Bitcoin. I put it into safe haven places, because otherwise you don't really sleep. Like, do you sleep better at night knowing that you consistently, I personally sleep better at night if I know consistently I'm making cash flow to pay my overhead and have money left over to buy safe haven assets. So more people need to build stuff. That's something we're missing out on in the world, is we need to make sure that we're building stuff. If we want to have an economy that thrives, we need more people that build businesses, So people tend to say to succeed as an entrepreneur, it's only 10 to 5% or something succeed as an entrepreneur. That number needs to go up. We need 50% of people to succeed as an entrepreneur in the future. It's in today's day and age, it's what's laughable to me is technology got completely flipped upside down in 2007. Completely upside down. When the iPhone came out in 2007, YouTube started rolling out. So the whole education system got flipped upside down too. So to be successful as an entrepreneur with all this technology, with Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you have a supercomputer in your pocket that takes better photos than a $10,000 camera in year 2000. In year 2000, you couldn't take photos like a $1,000 iPhone with a $50,000 camera. It wasn't even close. So you have this supercomputer in your pocket that should make it orders of magnitude easier to be an entrepreneur. So why is it so hard to succeed as an entrepreneur? I think it's because it's not being told enough. It's not being taught enough how to succeed as an entrepreneur. People who are entrepreneurs are succeeding by going and reaching out to people on YouTube and learning from people on YouTube and seeking out education themselves, because they don't teach this in the college education system. But I think that that number should change from like 5 to 10% succeed as an entrepreneur to like 50% succeed with all these tools we have at our disposal. It's so easy to figure out something with all these tools. So I guess that's my take on it. But we got to 440 likes up in here. I appreciate it, guys. I've kept this live stream going I was planning to do like a 30-minute live stream. I always do that. I plan to do a 30-minute live stream, and then we go for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It tends to happen that way. We'll go through a few more comments here. I said if we got to 450 likes, I'd flip the timer. We're at 440 likes, so we're pretty close there. But I don't know if you want to listen to me ramble for another 30 minutes up in here. But I will if we do get to 450. I said 450, so if we get there, I'll flip it. I'll go for a little bit longer in here. But let me get to a few more comments. Let me see. And right now, by the way, guys, we're going over the comments section. So if you write a comment, I'm looking at the comments right now. This video will be posted. So if you wanted information from, why I think silver is going to go up, why it's getting kind of a bottom, go to the beginning of the video when I post this video later on. So right now, the video, I don't know, maybe it allows you to do that. Maybe you can go back to the beginning of the video while you're in the live stream right now. I don't know how that works, but the video will be posted. Wow, we're at 446. You guys are making me put my money where my mouth is on this one. I'll flip the timer. All right. We'll flip the timer. I think we're at 400 and we're 447. 447. I don't know if we're gonna get there. 448. I don't know. It looks like a long shot. It's a long shot, guys. I don't know if you can get to 450 on there. I appreciate it, everybody, because if you like the video, that means that you want me to keep going. I don't want to just keep rambling if you don't want me to ramble, but I will if you want me to. And so we got to 450, 454, 454. You guys, all right. You see that YouTube algorithm? You see that? That's what I'm talking about. Can you see me now, YouTube algorithm? Can you see me? I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. All right. Let's let me see a few more of these comments. We are in great times to get in silver at this price. I agree. Wildwood Stacker, do you drive a Tesla? If I did, I wouldn't tell you. No, I'm just kidding. In the future, I'm planning to get one. Right now, I don't. Once you hit 500, you get front page. Really? If you're right, Tonto, we're at 459. Let's get it to 500. Maybe Tonto's right. That'd be rad. Legbad says, keep rambling. It's good to see someone so passionate about metal talking their mind. I appreciate that, Legbad. Thank you, man. Zilla says, the Soltan sand timer is epic. That's how you know I'm going like over an hour, because my start stuttering a little bit. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Zilla. Would you trade your position now to be younger starting at 0? I mean, 0, I don't know about 0 because then I wouldn't exist, but like to go back, I don't know if I'd want to go back to 0. I do have a funny concept in my mind about the simulation theory. If I say like it was year 2020, year 2200 or 2200 it's year 2200. We're like another 100 some odd years in the future. I think that it would get boring at a certain point. Like people wouldn't want to leave where they're at, and they just go into this metaverse sort of thing. And the metaverse really is proving that. I mean, we're already doing that with the metaverse thing. So I think that in the future, obviously we kind of go into this like cocoon where we don't do anything, where we're just this like brain mind cocoon sort of thing. And I think in the future it would get very boring. It would enter like this type of substrate type thing where the future is just you're just extremely bored. So what would you do? Like, why do you play a video game? Think about it. Like, why do you go into a video game and play the video game? It's because you're bored. You do that. You go play a video game and you go play some action game or whatever because you're bored. So you enter a simulation when you're bored. And as more and more boredom keeps rising and rising and rising, we do things like the metaverse, you get extremely bored in the future. And what would you do? If I was in a ridiculously advanced, like Futurama type metaverse thing in the future, and I wanted to go do something that made me not bored, I would go back to like 1990, like right when I was born. Ironically enough, I would go back to like right now, or like no, a little bit before now. I'd go like, oh, in like 1990s, it was right when the internet was getting invented. It was right when it was at the start of things. We still went out and like we went to, we actually went out and we were actually like regular humans back then, but the internet was just kind of coming around. So the technology was about to burst. So I mean, like 1990 to 2015 was a super cool time to go back in time. So I would want to go back to that time. Ironically, if I was really deep in the future, and that's what makes me think I'm in a simulation now, I'd want to go back to when I first was born. Like, it's a super cool time. I wouldn't want to go back all the way to the early 1900s. I want to go back to somewhere in like 1995, 1990, because that was a really, really cool time. Everything just started, like there was this huge S curve on technology then. So it's like, that's what blows my mind is why do you play a video game? It's because you're bored. And in the future, we're going to get more and more bored. So you'd want to enter a simulation to go back to when you weren't bored. And back when I was a kid, you'd go and ride bikes and get some dirt on you. If you got cut, you'd go and you'd rub some dirt on it, and you'd drink water from the hose. Like it was a different time back then. So that's someone just asked me, if I could give up everything I have now and go back in time. It's like it reminds me of the simulation theory in a way, and that's what makes me think I'm in a simulation because it just boredom. Like even right now, you start getting more and more bored, and with everything going on in the metaverse, could you imagine how bored? Like, God, it's just gonna get so weird. But anyway, that's how I feel about that. Carolina Tom says, Rob, 9 gold eagles, older day date president. I'd choose silver. That's not one of the two options. I think that silver's a better choice than gold, and it has much more upside than gold. I mean, I'll go back to this chart over here. I think silver has more upside to gold. When I look at this gold to silver ratio, I mean, back in 1980, at the beginning of that inflation in 1980, it was at 15 to 1 was at the lowest point, which would mean silver would be well over 100 an ounce at 15 to 1, I believe. 15 to 1, that would be... I need to get a calculator really quick to get that ratio. Someone in the comments will tell me what the price of silver would be at a 15 to 1 ratio with gold. But back when inflation was at these levels, I mean, we're talking even back then, I mean, in the 30s, I think a gold to silver ratio conservatively could get to the 30s very conservatively. And right now we're almost at 80. So that means that we'd see well over a double to get it back to the 30s, which is what we saw in 2011. We saw it at 31. So I personally would rather be in silver than gold. That's just what I personally would rather do. So not financial advice, just what I personally would rather do. I'd rather be in silver. But if I had to choose between the two, I think I'd choose the Rolex. I think I'd choose the president. And I can help you out with that if you want to shoot me a DM on Instagram, at Rob Soltan on Instagram. Shameless plug, but I do have a lot of connections in the Rolex game. So if you're interested in that, would be happy to help. But I think that the Rolex might go up. The Rolex market has definitely appreciated much more, especially the vintage market, than gold right now. So I don't know. A lot of people might differ with me. I think I would choose, if I had to choose between silver, gold, and a Rolex, I would choose silver first, and then I would choose the Rolex, and then I would choose gold. And I have done that, like quite literally. I have some gold, but my gold really, I have more money in Rolexes than I do in gold. So I do that literally. That's my personal take on it. But it's a great question. At 15 to 1, this is why I love having the comment section, because you guys can help me out with stuff like that. He said at 15 to 1, so if the gold to silver ratio, hang on, we'll go back to this chart real quick. If the gold to silver ratio was at 15 to 1 like it was at the beginning of inflation in 1979, which was 15 to 1, silver price would be $118 an ounce at a 15 to 1 ratio. So I believe, is that someone, I think that math is correct. But it just goes to show you like how undervalued silver is. But it's crazy is at the same time, gold could be going up at the same time. So that ratio could keep silver price going up, if that makes sense, even higher than that. Golden toad. That's my lucky toad. If you go to my Instagram, you know what he's talking about. I have a little lucky golden toad. Super lucky. It's exactly 18.8 grams of pure gold. The toad is the king of everything. I got pictures of him on my Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, at Rob Soltan on Instagram, follow me there. I post all the pictures of the collectibles and stuff I'm buying right now. Chinese buying Rolex over real estate now. I mean, I don't know. It seems like it's a lot of both going on lately. As long as rates, if interest rates are, you got to remember, what is the Fed doing right now? The interest rates are still at 0. They haven't done anything. And when they do anything, like raising it to 0.9% is nothing. They have to raise it dramatically. What might happen is inflation gets out of control. They can't even like dance around it anymore. And they say the CPI is over 10%. Then they say, oh, you're going to raise it to 0.9%. Now we actually have to raise it to 11, 12% to stop inflation from going up this high. And if they do that, we're talking just utter turmoil. Excuse me, just utter turmoil. And that's what they had to do in the last time it got this high. So just makes perfect sense that that's what would happen. That's leg batty. You're exactly right. If silver goes to 15-1, gold will have to go. Well, gold will go up a lot too in that time. So the ratios, it's like they tighten and they contract and they loose again. They contract, loose again. They keep doing that. But right now, it's gotten very far out of proportion. So the gold to silver ratio is like this band that keeps doing this. And right now, the band has gotten like. So eventually, the band will get tighter, and then it'll go up at the same time. And the band that's how I would describe the gold to silver ratio. So I mean, last time, let me go back to the ratio here. What was crazy is like if we go to the 5-year on the ratio, the 5-year was, I mean, this I made videos back then when it was April. That was like, if you pull up my videos, I've literally have videos back when it was at this level, when it was at like 115, and I'm going, what in the world? The gold to silver ratio is 115 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of gold. It used to be 15-1. That is insanity. And so still we're seeing a very lofty price of 80, but at that point it was like the band had gotten like way too far. So that's one of the tell indicators there, is looking at the gold to silver ratio and knowing what you're looking at. But if you didn't know about the gold to silver ratio, that is a very big trick. Rick Golfman says virtually no debt to service in 1981 high school. Yeah, it's just crazy because these numbers. I mean, in 1981, in the 80s, for silver to get to nearly 50 an ounce, I mean, that's still the same. That's using the dollars that have been wildly diluted since then. I mean, it's just crazy that we're not way higher than that with how diluted the dollar is since 1980. Just shows how undervalued silver really is, and just how just up is down, down is up. Makes no sense at all. The world was so much different back then. So it's just crazy to see that inflation is back at those types of levels. The dollar has been wildly diluted. The deficit, are we over 30 trillion on the deficit? I think we're pretty close. I think we're like right about to break 30 trillion if we haven't already, which is just, we can't, it's like everyone would have to pay like $20 an hour just in taxes to stop, just to get them not to chip away at the deficit, but just to get it to stop. Just to get it to stay at 30 trillion, you'd have to pay just a ridiculous amount to get it just to stay at 30 trillion. I mean, there's really no way to stop it. That's why no president can stop it. It just keeps going up and up and up, no matter what they say, because they're just politicians. But it's just crazy to me. The more research I do, the more insane it becomes. I can't make sense of it. All I can do is poke holes in everything that we're being told. But I can't make sense of it all. It's just absolutely wild to me that's gotten to this point. I heard it was Isaac Newton who set the gold to silver ratio long ago. What do you think about PCGS slabbing vintage bars? I don't know. I don't know if they'll do that. That's been a conversation topic for a long time, but like the thing is, like, this is a vintage bar, right? It's a Hallmark precious metals. This is actually a collectible piece. These are hallmarks. Like I'm into collectible silver. If you're following me on Instagram, you know I'm in collectible silver. So if you want to see pictures of all this type of stuff, go to my Instagram at Rob Soltan on Instagram. I got a lot of pictures of the collectibles that I get into. But vintage silver, it's like people that are in vintage silver, they like to touch it. They like to actually hold the bar, you know? So I just don't know if they're going to want it in a slab. Maybe the old, you know what they might slab? They might slab the old assay bars, the old U.S. Mint assay bars, like the New York Mint, the San Francisco Mint bars, because there's not that many of them. There's only a few thousand of them, and they're super rare and collectible. They're going up there like little 5-ounce silver bars that are going for like $5,000, $6,000. Those I could see them grading those. That would make sense. I just don't know if they'd put a grade on it. They might slab it, and they might go. They might put it in a slab, and then they might put like authentic ingot, you know, because you can't really grade it on a 70 scale. You know, they're not going to call it like an MS64 vintage bar. I don't think they're going to do that. But I think that what they will do is say authentic bar and put it in a slab on like 5 ounce and under. I don't know if they're going to bust out like the monster slabs or whatever, but they do that with like Pokemon cards. They put those in like those big plastic slabs. So I don't know. It's possible. I mean, I have some really rare, cool bars in my collection, so I would like to see that happen. But I will say the vintage silver market is honestly just blowing up. Like, because there's so many more collectors due to all the forums and whatnot and all the social media that it's just vintage collectible silver has been just skyrocketing. Crazy market category. Same thing with rare coins. I mean, all collectibles really have been just skyrocketing. It's wild. First profile. I'm new to watching your channel. I totally appreciate your hard work and for the content. Keep up the great work. Joe C, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for that. It means a lot to me. When I get comments like that, it hypes me up to keep going forward. So I really appreciate you saying that, Joe C. It means a lot. Thank you, man. Morgan dollars are going to take off like Rolexes soon. You know, I'll give a little bit of an insight when it comes to Morgan silver dollars and like rare coins in this video. So for everybody in here, I'll give you a little bit of insight in collectibles. I've talked about this, I think, a little bit in the past, but maybe in that, I think I talked about it when I did that when I showed my Gersopa bar. But my motto has always been buy high, sell higher. Because what I see is in the collectibles market, the middle of the road stuff and like the lower end collectibles. So like say like a Rolex, for example, I bought a gold president. Now I could have got like a silver, or not a silver, a sterling one. You know, I get, you know, it's not even sterling. No, it's like a, why am my brain? I've been doing this live stream for 2 hours. Stainless steel. So I could get a stainless steel one, but I thought the gold is a little bit more undervalued. So I'd rather buy something that in the future more people are going to want. So what I try to focus on is in a collectible. If I'm getting into Morgan silver dollars, for example, I want to get like a top of the line MS65 one, you know, or MS63 or whatever. Like get a Carson City one of a key date, get like a 1881 Carson City in like a 63 or 64 or something like that that has like a little bit of toning on it and an old holder. Something that's that's going to be very hard for me to replace because the market tends to do this. The high end gets very, very high and the market goes up really high for the high end stuff, and the low end stuff goes low, and less people want the low end stuff when it comes to collectibles. We're not talking about like the intrinsic value of that item, and you're talking more about the rarity of it. I mean, a Morgan silver dollar, I've seen some that go for $100,000 that it's 1 ounce of silver. So obviously you're not talking about the intrinsic value at that point. You're talking about the rarity. So in a rarity scale, you want to get something that is very, very hard to replace and very, very desirable, not something that's middle of the road or low end on the road. That's my personal take on collectibles when it comes to like a, you know, when it comes to like a Morgan silver dollar. So yeah, like an 1889 Carson City in a high grade, you'd want to buy high end stuff because that stuff has only gone up. But that's how I would do it. Hasher 401 says, how old is General Metal Silver? There's been a few different companies, and one of them is actually a little bit older. Send me a picture, shoot me a DM of it on Instagram. So at Rob Soltan on Instagram, shoot me a DM with it. I'll get back to you on that. But I'd have to see a picture of it to actually date it for you. If you have any comments, if you have any like questions on like your silver or stuff like that, or on a collectible or something, just shoot me a DM on Instagram at Rob Soltan on Instagram. Make sure you give me a follow there. I'm giving notifications on the channel. So if you want to see a notification when I'm going live, just click my story on Instagram, follow me there. That way I can get like double notifications. Sometimes YouTube, it takes way too long to get people notifications. So that's my way of kind of like algorithm hacking, is if I can let people know on my Instagram prior to going live on YouTube, then I can let people know on a different source in addition to YouTube as well. So make sure you're following me on Instagram. Crazy Eddie says, I smell a giveaway. Maybe. I have done them in the past. So if you're following me on Instagram, that would probably be where I would do it. Silver goes up to 1 penny. So went up a little bit more than a penny. I think it went up like about 50 pennies. It went up about 50 pennies. That's a pretty good amount of pennies for silver to go up. 500 likes we got to. All right, YouTube. All right, YouTube algorithm. If we're that doesn't hack the YouTube algorithm, I don't know what will. We got the 500 likes up in here. All right, YouTube. Can you see me? Can you see me, YouTube? We're out here. We're out here. We're at 500 likes. I want to be on the front page. Let's get to that front page of YouTube. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Seriously, everybody who smashed the like button, everybody who gets this content out to more people really does help. And hopefully this information is worthwhile. Otherwise, I wouldn't expect you to do that. So I spend a lot of time studying this stuff, and I really want to get this information out there. So hopefully it did help you. Max Kaiser went all in on Bitcoin, bold but foolish. He actually has a lot of silver. I don't know if he'll admit it these days, but if you watch videos of him in the past, he's actually a silver stacker. He was actually a silver stacker, I think, before being in Bitcoin. And so I believe he's in both. I would love to interview him one day. And he's been on channels that are smaller than mine. So, I mean, maybe I might be able to get him on the interview. That's why I've been doing the podcast. So everybody who subscribes to my channel, if you subscribe, I will ask those tough questions. If we get Max Kaiser on here, I'll be like, do you still own silver? Because I saw a video of you in the past talking about silver. I think you still own silver. But I think he does he's much bigger into Bitcoin because he got in so early. I mean, he got in when Bitcoin was dollars. Was a couple bucks. I mean, he got in so early. Nobody knows how much he's worth. Some people have told me he's worth like hundreds of millions, but nobody knows because it's all in Bitcoin. That's a super early price. So he's an interesting character. Max Kaiser just said he's getting out of silver and gold completely. Okay, well then that makes sense. But I've been told that he has a lot of silver. That's what I remember hearing that somewhere. So I'd have to ask him. If we get to enough subscribers on this channel, I will invite him to the channel. I'd be happy to interview him. I will give you guys a heads up, but I have some pretty good guests coming up for the podcast. So if you go to my channel and you look on playlists, first subscribe to the channel. But after that, if you look on playlist, I have the podcast separated, and I've also all my anything about Bitcoin, precious metals, all that stuff. I've subdivided it into playlists, and the podcast is its own playlist. So look for the podcast. And I've had some really good guests on there. I've had Greg Foss on. I've had some very big guests. But I'm working my way up to talk to some more and more guests. And I'm really excited to do that because it's not like I'm advertising with them or something. I'm going to ask them the hard questions. Like all the questions that my viewers want me to ask, I'm going to ask those questions. I'm not going to be like an easy interview. But I have some really big guests coming in the future. I just don't want to jinx it or anything, but expect some more. So if you're subscribed to the channel, expect some pretty cool guests for the podcast in the future. I'm excited about that. He was on Stansberry recently talking about being all in on Bitcoin. Well, maybe on this pullback he decided to go all in. I mean, me personally, I'm not going to do that. I believe too much in silver, and silver's something that I have a lot of conviction in Bitcoin too, but I like silver a lot. So I just don't believe in the logic. I think it's foolish to be all in and foolish to have none. That's my stance on both of them. On silver, I think it's foolish to be all in, foolish to have none. On Bitcoin, I think it's foolish to be all in, foolish to have none. I like to have a bit of both. That's where I'm at personally. Now, I'm much more bullish on industrial precious metals than I am on gold. So it's a different argument for me talking about gold or silver because I would much rather be in silver than gold. And I've talked about that in the past in the channel, but that's how I feel about it. If I bought loads of physical silver, I'd be worried about getting robbed. Could I bury it in my garden? Would the silver degrade? I wouldn't recommend burying it, but I mean, they sell pretty high-end safes, and there's a lot of ways to store your silver. So I mean, I don't think you should be too worried about it. This video, he says he's selling all of his silver. Okay, well then I haven't watched that video yet, but he did tell me, I did hear in the past that he had silver, so I guess that has changed in the future. So I guess he said he's selling it now. What college did I attend? The college of dropouts. I dropped out of college. I didn't make it through. I dropped out of college with like 58 units done. And when I didn't even graduate to get my AA. I was like, nah, I'm done with this. I'm going to go be a waiter. I make more money as a waiter than the college job could get me anyway. I remember the logic I had in my head at the time. And I thought it would be a cooler story to tell, to say that I dropped out before even getting the AA degree. I think I had like a 3.7 too. I had a pretty decent GPA, and I was about to transfer to a 4-year, and I'm like, wait a minute, how much do you want to go to these colleges? 50 grand a semester? You're out of your mind. I'm not paying you 100 grand a year for your stupid piece of paper. I'm out of here. I'm going to go wait some tables. Like, it just wasn't clicking with me. I thought to myself, the logic of dropping out of college was, if I had $200,000 to invest in 4 years of my time, I would be successful in that business. That was like my mentality on it. If it's going to cost me $200,000, $50,000 a year minimum to go to the school I want to go to, some of the schools were $100,000 a year. So if I had $200,000 to $400,000 in 4 years of my time, what would I do with that? Because people, they go out for the party. Like there's this person I was dating recently, right? And they go out for the party. They go, oh, well, I'm going to go to this fancy college. I'm going to get up all this debt and I'm going to do all this stuff. And then when all that fanciness stops and they get their degree and they get their fancy piece of paper and they realize it's worthless, pretty much, they go, well, wait, I have this huge monster of debt chasing me, and I was just busy partying and I forgot about this monster of debt, and now I have to pay this monster of debt, and I have this little piece of paper that I can't even really get a job with these days that can pay me enough to pay for this monstrosity of debt. And oh, by the way, I learned nothing. Like I know so many people that went to a 4-year college and they have no idea what they even learned. All they did was jam useless information under a fluorescent light, and they proved that they can jam useless information under a select duration of time under a fluorescent light, and they did tests with everybody else that made you no different because you're taking the same test that pertains to everybody else in the same room, studying the same information out of the same textbook from 1984. Like, yeah, you're going to get ahead doing that. Anyway, I got a chip on my shoulder when it comes to college. I'll rant a little bit about college. We're off topic a little bit, but if you talk to me about college, you'll get me a little riled up. But I think college is one of the biggest. It's more of a scam than the things the Fed's been talking about. It's just crazy. I swear, when someone tells me, like, they go like, oh yeah, I polished up my degree and I polished up my resume, I'm like, oh great, you're gonna make a great employee. Like, fantastic. I hope you get good at that. You know, like, I can tell that a conversation with you is going to be very boring and not fun. But again, I have a chip on my shoulder because at the same time, I have the ADD, ADHD, whatever they want to say. I have all of that stuff. If I'm not passionate, I'm thinking about all the other things outside of the window in a classroom. Like I can't focus if I'm not passionate about it. So I have a chip on my shoulder because I couldn't take it anymore when I went. But honestly, if you really look at it from like an investor's perspective though, like if you take it, because they don't teach these 17, 18-year-old kids, they don't teach them finance really in high school, which they should. As like a freshman in high school, they should be teaching finance 101, how to get good credit, how to get only spend 30% of your credit cards and get good credit, get an auto loan, how to build your credit lines up, all of that stuff. They should talk about that, how to make an LLC, how to make an S Corp, how to do all these things. They say it's business law and stuff in college, but still even then, you don't even really learn anything. There's really not a real finance course or how to be an entrepreneur and stuff in high school to teach you, because if they did teach you, it would be so much harder to screw you over and give you these ridiculous student loans. If they taught you in high school, it'd be so much harder to rip you off on these ridiculously overpriced educations. If the government wasn't involved in the college system, the price of college would be dramatically less. But only because the government's involved, the price of college is ridiculously high because they can't do anything right. But it's wild to me that they don't teach these kids financial literacy, because if they did, they'd have the same thought that I had. And I hate to be like arrogant about it, but I remember thinking like, wait a minute, $200,000 in secured debt. If it's on a credit card, I can just go bankrupt. But with your debt, with a college debt, I'm stuck for the rest of my life. I can't even die out of this debt. That's how bad the debt is that you get with a college debt. It's with you. It's on your shoulders, pressing you down for life, just for those stupid 4 years of whatever. And it's like, why don't you just put yourself? I mean, that was my logic of getting high-speed internet in a warehouse. It's like, I'm just going to live in a warehouse with high-speed internet, and my overhead I could do that for 10 years and save money. Like, why don't I do that instead? That's how, and you can learn unlimited amount of information. So the internet, like all this stuff that I've learned about silver in this video, if you watch the beginning of the video and all these different charts, everything, this is all self-taught. I don't have a professor talking to me about silver. This is all self-taught, and the real information that's going to help you in the short term and the long term is information that you go and you seek out yourself with passion. So by you being in this YouTube video and being in this comment section here and watching this live stream, it's like you're actively looking for information online, and that is where the real information lies. It's not in a textbook that they overcharged from 1984 because they only allow you to use this textbook for that certain economics class, and you got to pay $300 to attend this. It's like the whole system makes no sense to me. It has no logic behind it, and it just makes my brain want to explode. Anyway. Left side story, I am. You know, maybe colleges are different in different places, but I'm an American. But Rick Golfman says, the road to success began when I forgot almost everything I was ever taught in school, except math and numbers. It's true. Same way. I don't remember anything that I was taught. You know what taught me the most? Here's what taught me the most, because I'm an introvert. People think I'm extroverted because they see me on YouTube and stuff, but I'm introverted. I like being alone. I don't like spending time with other people, really. And what helped me the most in my life was having to make 100 first impressions a day as a waiter. That had nothing to do with a college degree or anything like that. And that is so undervalued because when you're a bartender or you're a waiter, you literally make 100 first impressions plus. Sometimes you make like 500 first impressions in a day because you got a table of 4, another table of 4, another table of 10, another table of 3, another table of 4. You're constantly making first impressions. And because of that, it helped me with communication skills, because otherwise I just want to be introverted. I wouldn't even want to talk to anybody. So it was other things than college that taught me the most about life. And kind of that's at least my little way I look at it. But I couldn't agree more, Rick. But anyway, guys, we're talking about all kinds of subjects here outside of silver in the silver video. But I tend to do that in my live streams. Again, if you're not following me on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram at RobSoltan on Instagram. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do click the subscribe button. Hopefully, this video will help grow the channel a bit. I'm trying to get over 25,000 subscribers, so hopefully we're getting closer to there. That's a big milestone for me to break. So I really appreciate everybody for clicking the subscribe button. I will be, again, notifying of all the videos I do on YouTube. I'm notifying on my Instagram as well. So I'm able to kind of make sure, because, again, when I start these live streams, for some reason, people aren't getting notified until like halfway through sometimes. So it's not beeping their phones or anything until they're about halfway through, even if they click the bell. So make sure you click the subscribe and the bell. So that helps with that. But still, the notifications tend to be a little bit messed up from what I hear. So I will notify you again on Instagram if you follow me on Instagram. It's very important to have other social medias so that you're not reliant on one. I focus on YouTube, and I will always focus on YouTube, but I've been putting more effort into the Instagram thing now. And also I can be more interactive on the DMs there and actually talk with everybody who's interested in getting in silver, interested in collectibles, stuff like that. Or if you have questions, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm getting back to all my DMs on Instagram at RobSoltan on Instagram. Make sure to follow me there, and make sure you subscribe and click the bell afterwards. And thank you, everybody, for clicking the like. We're at 536 likes. So the YouTube algorithm got to see us now. You got to see the Silver Squirrel community. We're getting bigger. We're getting stronger. We're getting bigger. 536 likes. I really appreciate it, everybody. I'm going to call it a night, but I will be doing a ton more of these live streams. I will say that the Monday motivation videos are back. I'm going to do that every Monday. So, because I need it for myself too. You got to remember, like, you're on the journey with me. I'm not like some ridiculously successful person. I've had some success, and I'm kind of on this journey right now, and I want to share the journey with you in a way. But I'm doing those Monday motivation videos, and it kind of hypes me up to practice what I preach, because often I'll preach something and I'm not doing it myself. I was like, wait, I got to implement that in my life myself. So the Monday motivations kind of help me vent and implement those things as well. So I'm hyped to do those every single Monday. And I'm also bringing back the Friday night lives. So expect to have a live feed every Friday night. I'm still picking the time. Maybe I'll tell everybody on Instagram when I pick the actual time. But that's going to be a more consistent thing, as well as I'm probably going to do around 5 videos a week now. So a lot more content's coming out on YouTube. In the last week, I've done 4 or 5 videos. So I plan to keep up at this rate. I got a lot on my shoulders, but I really enjoy doing all of this. So thank you, everybody, for all your support, all the comments, all the kind words. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for all the likes on the video and everybody subscribing to the channel. I will see you at the next live stream and the next video on this channel, and hopefully on the Instagram as well. Signing out. See you at the next video.